Are you sick and tired of drafting rookie wide receivers every year just to have them sit on your bench and suck? Well, so am I. So let's see if we can find a few rookie wide receivers that may have some fantasy football potential for 2019.
What's up, Headliner Nation? This is Hunter Henry from the LA Chargers, and you're watching my boys here on the Fantasy Headliners. Let it flow, fellas.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today, we're talking about rookies, incoming rookie wide receivers here into the NFL, and if they have any potential fantasy football value for 2019. And I said it in the opening, a lot of times these incoming pass catchers need a couple years to get established in the NFL, whether it's getting adjusted to the speed of the game or actually being involved in the game plan more. Maybe they're buried on a depth chart. There's lots of reasons why these guys take a few years. However, there are a few names we need to pay attention to here in 2019 because they could have some sneaky potential. They're not home run for sure. Go out there and draft these guys in the first couple rounds. I'm not going to say that yet, but they're just names we need to pay attention to here in the OTAs, mini camps, preseason games. These guys could get a very large role in their offense of the teams they went to. Real quick, before I get into this list, go check out our website, TheFantasyHeadliners.com. Lots of other information that you won't find on video, you can find on the website. We have both fantasy baseball and fantasy football articles up there on the site. And make sure you check out our draft guide. It's on sale for pre-order right now. $19.99, comes out end of June, and it will help you absolutely dominate your fantasy football season. Looking forward to that. And then also, you see a Juju Smith-Schuster jersey over my shoulder. Would you like to have it for free? Because I'm giving it away for free. If you're interested in winning that jersey, follow me on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter, go create one. It takes like 30 seconds. Even if you never use it again, we're going to be giving away things all year long. Just sign up for our Twitter just for the giveaways if you want to. There's a few short steps on my profile at Fantasy Headliners. That's FNTSY Headliners. Go check it out. There's a couple steps you have to do to enter yourself in to win it. And then it's a piece of cake. You just sit back, relax. We'll be announcing the winner May 31st. But now, let's talk about some rookie wide receivers that could have some fantasy football potential here in 2019. Number one is easy. It's going to be N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State going to the New England Patriots. 32nd pick in the first round. Now, if you followed this channel and you watched our past mock draft videos, you know that N'Keal Harry was our number one ranked wide receiver. Number one ranked, I want to say wanked, but yet I don't want that to show up as a keyword. But you know what I'm talking about. We had him as our number one wide receiver here going in the NFL draft, and he went to the New England Patriots. A Tom Brady, Bill Belichick offense in need of weapons went the number one ranked wide receiver in the draft. Almost too good to be true. This guy has no true weaknesses, runs great routes, has great hands, physical receiver, 6'2", 228, likes to stretch the field, likes to go up and get the 50-50 ball. He is a very physical, there's not a whole lot that this guy can't do. He's kind of been compared to an old school Anquan Boldin type of wide receiver, which if you followed him throughout his career, Anquan Boldin was a pretty good wide receiver. Now you put a receiver of that caliber in an offense with Tom Brady at a time in which they need weapons, right? We know that Gronk is gone. Demaryius Thomas is there, but he's old, and his Achilles is no stronger than a wet paper plate. It's really lining up for things to look pretty good for N'Keal Harry here. If you look at the other pass-catching options here on the team, outside of Julian Edelman and their 52 running backs that they have on their roster, these are the names you'll see on the depth chart. Philip Dorsett, Maurice Harris, Bruce Ellington, Braxton Berrios, who all of them combined have 92 career receptions. They're in need of some pass-catching options in New England, and N'Keal Harry fits it perfectly. There is no better place that he could have gone. He's definitely somebody that has some fantasy football value here for 2019 and going forward. He's not somebody you're going to have to spend an early pick on, but once the mid to late rounds come across, I'm going to have him in my queue. I'm going to be paying attention to him because, like I said, he's somebody that could have some sneaky value. Now, you pair all of that together with the consistency of the passing offense of the New England Patriots, things start to look a little hairy. Number two, it's Andy Isabella of the Arizona Cardinals. And a lot of you guys may be thinking, why is Andy Isabella so high on this list? Dude is tiny. And you're right. Dude is tiny, 5'9", 188, but he's now playing in Arizona with Kyler Murray and a Cliff Kingsbury offense in which he fits perfectly. They basically traded Josh Rosen for this guy. This is the type of wide receiver they need to have in this offense, and I get it. They have a lot of weapons now in Arizona, a lot of different weapons. Yes, they still have Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, but now they've added Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler. They still have David Johnson in the backfield. They've made a few key improvements on the offensive line. The Cardinals may not go out there and win the division, but they're going to be more exciting. They're going to put up points, and that's what we're talking about here is scoring fantasy football points. Now, Andy Isabella could absolutely kill linebackers from the slot. He was the fastest time wide receiver at the combine with a 4.31 40. He put up crazy numbers in college, and not just from the slot. The guy played all over the place. His work ethic is second to none. He led the nation in receiving last year, 102 catches, 1,698 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He also had 5 games in which he had more than 174 yards receiving. In fact, in week 10 of the college season, he had 9 catches for 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. And if you want to say, he played at UMass, correct, he did. But he also had some difficult competition at times. For example, when they played against Georgia this past season, he had 15 catches, 219 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The guy went absolutely crazy. Love Andy Isabella. Love the offense that he's going to. And being that they basically traded a first-round quarterback for this guy has to tell you something. There's draft capital involved. He's going to be a part of this offense going forward. And what kind of role does he fill? Is he the outside type of receiver that they used at Oklahoma with like a Hollywood Brown that really excelled with Kyler Murray under center? Does Kyler Murray's ability to extend plays give Andy Isabella the time to get open with this speed? And do they really make a lot of plays together? This is all entirely possible. The guy could be a Julian Edelman-esque target monster in this offense, and he is definitely somebody that's going to fall late in your fantasy football drafts. If I'm taking a flyer and N'Keal Harry's off the board, Andy Isabella is my guy. Mecole, don't call me Nicole Hardman is next out of Georgia. And he went to the Kansas City Chiefs, which is absolutely perfect for this guy. The 24th pick in the second round, a 5'10", 187-pound absolute burner out of Georgia. And is this the Tyreek Hill replacement? It's been kind of quiet, right? We don't really know exactly what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. More than likely, I'm guessing he's going to be suspended for a chunk, if not all, of the 2019 season, whether he plays again with Kansas City or not. But I think the Chiefs also have a few of these questions and concerns, and that's why they spent a second-round pick on a wide receiver out of Georgia who is an absolute burner. He's quick, he's fast, he's comparable to Tyreek Hill. He's kind of like a diet version of Tyreek Hill, and he's really only started playing wide receiver since he's been in college at Georgia. Imagine what's going to happen with this kid if he gets some pro coaching and actually really learns the position. He could go absolutely crazy in this Kansas City offense. Now, he didn't have a huge year at Georgia, 35 catches, 543 yards, and 7 touchdowns. But like I said, he's that speedy wide receiver that can fill the Tyreek Hill void if he is out. Now, if word comes out that Tyreek Hill is suspended or he's no longer a Chief or whatever may happen with that, Mecole Hardman may slide up to my number 2, but as of right now, Tyreek Hill is still on the roster, so I'm not going to make any assumptions until it actually happens. That is something we need to pay attention to, though, because Mecole Hardman could be somebody whose, draft stock skyrockets by the time we get to the fantasy football season if Tyreek Hill is gone. It may get to the point where he's too expensive and not worth the risk of a rookie wide receiver, but it's a name we need to pay attention to. We need to follow here and make sure we follow what's happening with Tyreek Hill. If he misses, Mecole Hardman may be a name you hear a whole lot of this year out of Kansas City. Paris Campbell coming up next out of Ohio State, going to the Indianapolis Colts with the 27th pick in the second round. A 6', 205. I guess you can call him like a utility knife. I mean, the guy can do all kinds of things. I'm not the biggest Paris Campbell fan. However, he fell into a perfect situation. We wanted Andrew Luck to have one more weapon, right? We already know about, Eric Ebron and T.Y. Hilton and Jack and Doyle comes back this year. They signed #NeverFunchess, and that's kind of why we wanted another option. I'm not sold on Funchess. For everybody who's watched this channel for like the last 3 years, you know that already. Paris Campbell is somebody who could really, really have a huge, huge ceiling in this offense. He could eat all these underneath routes. Like I said, you have the T.Y. Hiltons and the Devin Funchesses and the Eric Ebrons to stretch the field, Paris Campbell could just absolutely kill opposing linebackers with screen passes out of the backfield, slant routes across the middle. This is definitely a guy that can take a 5-yard slant and take it all the way. Quick, speedy, athletic receiver. He absolutely blew people away during the combine. He could get kind of gadgety in this offense, and that may be why I don't have him a little higher, maybe even above Andy Isabella. It could be one of those things where he's kind of not used a lot. He may have a huge game where he goes out there and gets 8 receptions for $125 and a touchdown, and then he may kind of disappear for a few weeks. I don't know if he has that consistency from week to week, but being in one of the best offenses in football that's led by Andrew Luck, Paris Campbell is somebody that we need to pay attention to because the fantasy football potential is there here in 2019. It's just the consistency that we really have to take a look at. We don't want him to turn into the next Tavon Austin. The name everybody wants to talk about these days, DK Metcalf, coming in here number 5, the 32nd pick in the second round, going to the Seattle Seahawks, a 6'3", 228. I don't have to tell you what this guy, he is an athletic freak. And a lot of people during the draft season were kind of saying, hey, he's a stretch the field, big wide receiver, but he can't run all the routes, and he's stiff, and he's not that agile. Now we're starting to see some of these clips on social media of him out there practicing and actually looking pretty fluid in his movements for a receiver that size. Don't write off DK Metcalf. And the reason that I have him down here at 5 is technically Doug Baldwin is still on the Seattle Seahawks. That may change here pretty soon. Doug Baldwin already dealing with injuries. It's something that he's dealt with all of last year off and on. And I think Seattle's getting to the point now where they just can't wait around for Doug Baldwin to get healthy. DK Metcalf could be the Doug Baldwin replacement, and if that happens, he'll move farther up this list. Something else we need to pay attention to here in the offseason. The problem with DK Metcalf is we haven't seen a whole lot of him, right? Another one of these guys who's dealt with injuries through college, had a neck injury, which has soon been healed, and he's ready to go. He's fine, but can he stay healthy? That's debatable. We don't have enough on him to really know that, hey, is he at injury risk, or is it just a fluke injury that happened to him in college? What is it? However, he does have a chance to be the number 1 red zone option there for the Seattle Seahawks, but the Seattle Seahawks ran the ball a lot in 2018. If you remember that, they ran the ball so well that they ranked 27th in passing yards. They didn't have to throw it a whole lot because they were successful on the ground. Now, yes, Mike Davis no longer in that backfield. Rashad Penny probably gets a bigger workload this year in 2019. And DK Metcalf could somewhat become TD dependent at times. He may not have that consistency factor right off the bat that we've seen with rookie wide receivers in the past. However, the ceiling is huge. The problem with DK Metcalf, he has that name value. And a lot of people are going to reach for him in their fantasy football drafts because they've seen a picture of him with his shirt off on Instagram. That, to me, is not a good enough reason for me to draft him early in my fantasy football drafts. He would be a later pick, a flyer for me, somebody I could stash on the bench and find out what happens, because if Doug Baldwin leaves, DK Metcalf assumes that role. He could have some value starting week 1, but we kind of got to see it before we can trust it, before we just draft it and throw it in our lineup. Lastly is going to be Marquise Brown here of the Baltimore Ravens. I had to include him on this video. If I didn't, I would have had like 100 comments down below. Dude, you're sleeping on Marquise Brown. Can't believe this dude didn't even talk about Marquise Brown. Can you guys believe that he just totally forgot about Marquise Brown? I didn't forget about the guy, all right? He just didn't land in the greatest destination. And I'm not exactly sold that he's like the second coming of his older cousin, Antonio Brown. I'm not sold on that. He's coming off an injury. Liz Frank surgery, the last time I checked, that's a foot injury, and wide receivers need feet to be successful. Will he be ready in week 1? That still remains to be seen. So that kind of already has me a little bit weary to begin with. That, and he's benefited from great quarterback play in college. Who did he have? Back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Not taking anything away from the skill level of a Marquise Brown, but he hasn't had a quarterback the likes of a Lamar Jackson that doesn't rely on his arm a lot to throw the football. Marquise Brown had 75 catches, 1,318 yards, 10 touchdowns last season in 2018, and he should have no problem going into Baltimore once he's healthy and being the number 1 wide receiver. They really don't have anybody else there. He's going to be able to stretch the field, which is then going to in turn open up the running lanes. What does Baltimore do really well? Run the football with Lamar Jackson, the newly signed Mark Ingram, and the newly drafted Justice Hill. these three could be the ones that benefit the most from a Marquise Brown. Not that he's not a capable option in this offense. They're going to have to try to involve him. They wouldn't have spent a first-round pick if they weren't going to. Am I sold that it's going to happen right away? That's going to depend a little bit on the injury, and I don't think he sees the volume on a weekly basis to go out there and be somebody that you want to start even as a flex play on a weekly basis. As of right now, to start the season, he's more in that wide receiver 4 or 5 range, somebody that's on your bench as a stash. Now, he's another one of these guys that has some name value, so somebody may reach for him in your fantasy football draft. Don't reach for him. There's some red flags there. There's some flags that may kind of cause him to take a year or two to really get into the flow of this game plan, and for Lamar Jackson to actually get more familiar with the NFL offenses and reading defenses and throwing the ball down the field. I'm a little worried about Marquise Brown here for 2019. Has the potential, has the upside, doesn't really have the greatest situation though, and for that reason alone, can't reach for him here 2019. So those are a few wide receivers we really need to pay attention to here in the offseason and leading up to the regular season here for fantasy football and your fantasy football draft. There are other guys I could have mentioned. I didn't want to get a huge long list and make this video super long. If you have questions about other players, throw them down below in the comment section. We pride ourselves on being one of the most interactive channels on all of YouTube fantasy sports, and we greatly appreciate interacting with you guys, the community. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and if you do, leave me a comment down below so I can welcome you personally to Headliner Nation. This is a great community full of positive people that really enjoy fantasy sports. That's what we're building here. Really excited for what we have coming up here in the future. Lots of videos coming up. Make sure you're checking out that website, tons of articles, and be sure to go enter the drawing to win the free autographed Juju Smith-Schuster jersey. Looking forward to talking to you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.